We are pleased to present to our listeners the short story Snowbound Farewell by Thomas Luong. This audiobook has been produced by the author. In this short story, if the names and circumstances of the characters coincide with real life, it is purely coincidental and unintended by the author. The sky was gray, heavy, as if it might collapse at any moment. The cold wind bit into their skin, carrying swirling snowflakes that danced fiercely through the air. The train station was desolate, with only a few dim yellow lights reflecting faintly on the thick white snow beneath their feet. Lean stood huddled in her white fur coat, her gray knitted scarf covering half her face. Her eyes were red, glistening with tears, staring blankly down the railway track. Soon, the dim light of a train would break through the falling snow, and the train would slowly approach to take her away from Tan, away from the first love of her life, forever. Tan stood opposite Lean, clasping her hands tightly, even through the thick gloves. His hands trembled lightly, a manifestation of the emotions surging within him. His thin jacket was no match for the biting cold, but he didn't care. His eyes looked at Lean with a tenderness that was tinged with pain. He forced a smile, his lips trembling as he tried to speak, but no words came. Reaching out, Tan gently adjusted her scarf.
It's snowing so much. Wrap it tighter or you'll catch a cold,
he said, his voice warm yet hoarse from the lump in his throat. Lean remained silent, nodding slightly, as tears streamed quietly down her cheeks. She tightened her grip on his hands.
Take care of yourself. Don't be sad, and don't overwork yourself, please,
she whispered. Tan forced another painful smile, though his eyes mirrored a gloomy sky.
Don't worry about me. I'll try to live with the hope that you'll have a bright future ahead,
he replied. The sound of a distant train whistle signaled the approach of the moment of parting. Lean turned away, trying to hide the tears that wouldn't stop falling. Tan's voice trembled.
Lean, I'm sorry. I couldn't give you a future you deserve. I'm just a man without a degree, without a career, a future. But I love you. I love you with all my heart.
Lean sobbed, looking up at him.
Don't say that, Tan. I've never needed you to have those things. All I ever needed was your love. But please understand, my family, they won't accept.
Tan nodded, resigned.
I understand. I will never blame you, never. You have to listen to your parents. What parent doesn't want their child to have a good future? I'll always remember you and pray that you'll have a peaceful life.
As the train slowly pulled into the station, its chilling whistle pierced the silence of the deserted platform. Tan pulled Lean into his arms, holding her tightly, knowing it was the last time he could do so. Lean pressed her face to his chest, her heart aching as she choked out, in a trembling voice,
I will remember you. I will never forget you. I will never forget the happy moments we shared.
Tan held her even tighter before slowly letting go. He took the scarf from around his neck and draped it over her shoulders.
Keep this. Think of it as me, always being by your side. The train's about to leave. Go now. I wish you a life full of happiness.
Then they kissed, a final goodbye kiss. It was passionate, lingering, as though neither wanted it to end. They only parted when the train conductor made the last call.
Attention passengers. This is the final boarding call.
Lean stepped slowly onto the train, turning back for one last look at Ton, at the doorway of the carriage. Through the frosted train window, she sobbed quietly, tears streaming down her cheeks, as she gazed through her veil of sorrow, at Ton standing silently alone, on the deserted, snow-covered platform. He looked so lonely, so forlorn. As the train began to move, his figure faded gradually into the swirling snowstorm, until only the endless stretches of white-covered land rushing past remained. Lean knew this was her final farewell to Ton. From now on, she would be forever apart from him, but their love would live on, in her memory as a sweet, cherished chapter of her life. Taking a deep breath, and exhaling slowly, Lean wiped her tears, and consoled herself with the belief that she had done the right thing. By listening to her parents' advice, they had explained why she could not marry Ton. After graduating from Cornell University, beyond the disparity in education, Lean being a Cornell education, and Ton only a high school graduate, who had dropped out to support his family, there were practical reasons. Ton could not uproot his family from upstate New York to live in the expensive city of New York, if they were to marry. Sitting on the train, Lean thought back to the time shortly after her graduation, when she knew this crucial conversation with her parents was inevitable. In the small apartment in New York City, where her family lived, faint sunlight streamed through the window, falling on the wooden table where Lean sat across from her parents. The atmosphere was stifling, not because of the heat or humidity, but because of the tension of the discussion. Her father, a stern but caring man, placed his teacup on the table and looked at Lean with a mix of love and thoughtful concern. Her mother sat beside him, her face sorrowful, yet clearly supportive of what her husband was about to say. Her father began, his voice slow and deliberate.
Lean, you've graduated from Cornell, a prestigious university, and your future is wide open. Please think carefully, and don't let fleeting emotions lead you to a decision that might derail your future.
Lean was silent, her hands clenched tightly together. She had expected this conversation, but it still made her heart ache. Taking a deep breath, she spoke slowly, her voice trembling with emotion.
Daddy, I love Ton. He is a good, hardworking man who loves me deeply.
Her mother sighed, taking Lean's hand gently. Her voice was soft but firm.
Lean, we agree that Ton is a good man, but being a wife and a mother requires more than just love. You need to think further ahead, for your future, and the future of your siblings.
Her father continued, his tone deep and measured.
Ton only has a high school diploma and dropped out to support his family. He is a good man. But can he and his family adapt to living in this city, where life is far more expensive than where they are now?
He added,
You know we work hard and live frugally, yet life is still a struggle. Meanwhile, Ton's mother is unwell, unable to work, and his siblings are still young. Only Ton and his father earn an income, and it's barely enough.
Her mother picked up where he left off.
After marriage, without financial support from you, Ton won't be able to support his family. If they move here, and if you stay here, you'll have to bear the burden of supporting both your family and his.
Tears welled in Lean's eyes. As she looked at her parents, her voice quivered as she replied,
Daddy. Mommy. I understand your concerns. But Ton will be a good husband. He's selfless, devoted to his family, and that's why I love him and want to marry him. He may not have a high education, but he has a sincere heart and truly loves me.
Her mother shook her head, worry etched in her eyes.
Lean, love is important, but marriage is not just about love. When you face financial burdens and the stress of starting your career, will love alone be enough? And when you have children, how will you provide for them while still supporting Ton's family?
Lean lowered her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knew her parents' words were true, yet her heart still burned with love for Ton, a love she could not easily let go. Choking back tears, she said,
Daddy. Mommy. I know you're advising me out of love and concern for my future. But if I end things with Ton, I don't know if I'll ever be happy again. Please, let me have more time to think this through.
Her father, softened by her pain, spoke gently.
Lean. We don't want to force you into anything, especially not in matters of marriage. We only want you to be happy. Just remember, a wrong decision now could lead to a lifetime of regret. Think carefully.
Her mother squeezed her hand, her voice tender with maternal love.
Take your time to think. Lean, we only want the best for you and your future.
Lean nodded silently, her tears continuing to fall. Her heart was torn between her love for Ton and her parents' worries. She understood their concerns. Her parents had worked tirelessly to support her education at an expensive, prestigious university, hoping she would achieve a bright future and help her siblings follow in her footsteps. In the end, after a sleepless night of anguish, Lean made the painful decision to end her first love with Ton. As the train's rhythmic clatter echoed in her ears, she thought of her parents and siblings waiting for her at home. Slowly closing her eyes, Lean drifted into a heavy, sorrowful sleep. Ton felt his legs go weak, and he sank onto a nearby bench, silently sobbing. As he tried to hold back his tears, he watched the train disappear into the white veil of snow, taking with it a part of his life. Though his heart was shattered by the permanent separation from Lean, Ton bore no resentment toward her for this inevitable farewell. He understood their circumstances all too well. His father, a former officer of the Republic of Vietnam's army, had been sent to re-education camps by the communist regime. After their conquest of South Vietnam, after over 10 years of imprisonment, his father was finally released, and in 1990, their family was resettled in the United States through a sponsorship by a kind-hearted American family in upstate New York. Ton, who had just graduated high school at the time, had to put aside further studies to help his parents support his younger siblings. After a few months of learning English through ESL classes, he found a job at a local restaurant in the Cornell University area. It was there that he met Lean, who also worked part-time on Sundays to earn some extra money. Being of the same Vietnamese heritage, Ton and Lean quickly became close friends, and over time, their friendship blossomed into love. Ton's thoughts wandered back to the day when Lean gave him her womanhood. The restaurant where they worked was closed every Monday, so they usually only saw each other on Sundays. On rare occasions, when public holidays fell on a Monday, and Lean had no classes, they would spend the entire day together. On one such snowy Monday holiday, when their love had grown deep, they decided to spend the day at a small local hotel. In the warm glow of the hotel room's dim yellow light, with snow falling thickly outside the window and blanketing the Cornell campus, Ton lay beside Lean. He gently stroked her silky hair, his eyes filled with love, but tinged with worry. Lean rested her head on his chest, feeling the strong, rapid beats of his heart. Through the thin fabric of his shirt, she smiled, her eyes sparkling in the soft light, as she wrapped her arms tightly around him. After a few moments of silence, Ton spoke hesitantly, his deep voice filled with concern.
Lean, are you sure we should do this?
Lean looked up at him, her eyes bright and unwavering, her voice confident and full of love.
Why not? We love each other. Don't we?
Ton gazed deeply into her eyes and saw the sincerity of her love for him. Overwhelmed with emotion, he said,
But I have nothing. No education. No future. No career. I'm afraid you'll regret this later.
Lean tightened her embrace, her eyes glowing with passion and determination.
Ton, all I need is your love. I'm giving myself to you now, because I love you more than anything in this world. I won't regret it. Not now. Not ever.
Their bodies drew closer, warming each other against the chill of winter. Ton whispered into her ear, his voice trembling with gratitude.
Thank you. Lean. Thank you for trusting me, loving me, and giving me this gift.
Before he could finish, Lean silenced him with a kiss. Their lips met in a passionate, fiery embrace that seemed to stretch on forever, as though there were no tomorrow. Under the warm blankets, their love reached its peak. Ton gently became her first intimate experience, and she arched her body, feeling a wave of contentment and tranquility wash over her. It was a divine, perfect moment she would never forget for the rest of her life. After a moment, Ton whispered softly into Lean's ear.
Thank you. Lean. Thank you for trusting me, loving me, and letting me.
Lean interrupted him, giggling softly and looking at him with playful eyes.
I should thank you too.
Ton, surprised, asked.
What do you mean?
Lean leaned in and whispered.
Isn't this also your first time?
Ton blushed and gave a shy nod. Lean giggled again, her voice playful and teasing.
That's why I should thank you for letting me take your first time, too.
They both burst into laughter, then embraced each other tightly, kissing passionately and fervently. Their shared warmth and love carried them once more to the peak of intimacy. Finally, exhausted but deeply fulfilled, they lay silently together, their bodies entwined and unwilling to part. Their breathing softened as they drifted into a serene, blissful sleep, enveloped in the magic of their shared moments. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but within their hearts, only the warmth of love, trust, and the unbreakable bond of their first love remained. Ton's thoughts shifted to their last breakfast together. Earlier that day, under the gray skies, snow had begun to fall quietly, blanketing the small village streets in white. Inside a familiar cafe, faint light streamed through the windows, where Ton and Lean sat together. The table, that had witnessed so many joyful mornings filled with laughter and loving glances, now sat heavy with an oppressive silence. Ton studied Lean's face, his eyes filled with concern.
Lean, what's wrong? Is something bothering you?
Lean looked up, her eyes avoiding his. She gripped her coffee cup tightly, as though it were the only thing keeping her steady. Taking a deep breath to calm herself, she spoke hesitantly, her voice choked with emotion.
Ton, I have something I need to tell you.
Ton leaned forward, worry etched across his face.
What is it? Tell me. Lean.
Lean hesitated, struggling to find the words she dreaded to say. Finally, with tears welling in her eyes, she confessed.
My parents. They don't approve of me continuing to see you.
Her words struck Ton like a dagger to the heart. Though he had always known this moment would come, he sat in silence, his hands clenched tightly, until he finally managed to speak, his voice filled with resignation.
So, this will be the last time I see you?
Lean bit her lip, tears streaming down her face, as she replied, in a trembling voice.
What else can I do? Ton, my parents love me, and I love them too. I can't bear to disappoint them.
Ton forced himself to remain calm, though his voice betrayed his sorrow.
They're right. Compared to you, I'm nothing. I can't offer you the kind of life your parents want for you. A husband with education. A stable career.
Lean reached across the table, grasping his hands tightly, her tears falling freely.
Thank you for understanding. Ton, if it weren't for my parents, I would never want to leave you. My heart will always belong to you.
Her voice broke, as she continued.
Honestly, I love you with all my heart. I've always wanted to build a life with you, to marry you.
Ton looked at her, his eyes filled with pain and despair.
This is my fate. Lean, there's nothing I can do.
Lean whispered through her tears.
I'm sorry. Ton, I have no other choice. But I'll always love you and treasure the happy days we had together.
Ton squeezed her hands tightly.
And I'll always wish for your happiness. Even if I can't be part of your life anymore.
They sat in silence, their hearts breaking, cherishing these final moments together. Outside, the snow began to fall harder, the wind howling in sympathy with the pain of two lovers forced apart. Ton's reverie ended, as the winter sky grew darker, and the snowfall thickened, rising slowly. He trudged heavily across the snow-covered ground to his car. He knew that, from now on, each step he took in life would feel as heavy as these. He thought of the bottle of cognac, gifted by his restaurant employer the previous Christmas, though he had resisted drinking it before. Tonight he would open it. He needed its comfort to fall asleep and regain the strength to return to work the next day, a workplace that would now feel empty, devoid of Lean's familiar, loving presence. The Sundays to come would no longer be filled with happiness but would, instead, be lonely, hollow echoes of the love he had lost forever.